Our friends at the Beyond Earth Institute are hosting their annual symposium in Washington, D.C. on November 1st and 2nd. The theme this year is LEO to Lunar to Living Beyond Earth. You can join senior leaders from across industry, government, and the international community to examine the policy challenges impacting the rapidly evolving space ecosystem. Leaders like Michelle Hanlon, Lieutenant General John Shaw, Frank White, and more. Register for the event at beyondearthsymposium.org or space.n2k.com/beyondearth. We hope to see you there. You'd be hard-pressed to find anyone in the space industry that isn't interested in the origins of the universe. It's what NASA is hoping to discover with samples collected from an asteroid almost 60 million miles away. We've waited 3 years to find out the secrets hidden in the regolith on Bennu, and initial findings have finally been released.
T-minus 20 seconds to LOS egress. Go for deploy.
Today is October the 11th, 2023. I'm Maria Varmazis, and this is T-minus. NASA finds carbon and water in the Bennu Asteroid sample. In Space forecasts India to account for 8% of the global space market by 2033. Relativity signs a multi-launch agreement with Intelsat. And we're highlighting International Day of the Girl today with our guest, Dr. Norilmi Amilia Ismail, who is a university lecturer, an entrepreneur focusing on building satellites in Malaysia, and a UN mentor for the Space for Women program. Let's dive into today's Intel briefing. It's the first U.S. mission to collect a sample from an asteroid, and OSIRIS-REx has struck gold. No, not the metal kind, the liquid kind, the most desirable material that supports life as we know it, water. OSIRIS-REx, which stands for Origins, Spectral Interpretation, Resource Identification and Security, Regolith Explorer, yep, that is a mouthful, returned to Earth on September 24th after collecting samples from the near-Earth asteroid known as Bennu. The asteroid is said to date back to the birth of our solar system, and the samples are expected to help researchers find out more about how our solar system formed. And for the last 10 days, scientists have been analyzing the material in the capsule that touched down in the Utah desert, and initial studies have found evidence of high carbon content and water. And they haven't even opened the main sample chamber yet. Black dust and particles were scattered around the outside edge of the chamber, which NASA is calling scientific treasure. Although more work is needed to understand the nature of the carbon compounds found, NASA says the initial discovery bodes well for future analyses of the asteroid sample. The secrets held within the rocks and dust from the asteroid will be studied for decades to come, offering insights into how our solar system was formed, how the precursor materials to life may have been seeded on Earth, and what precautions need to be taken to avoid asteroid collisions with our home planet. These initial findings are exciting, but we think they're just the tip of the iceberg for what is to come from this mission. A vision and strategy report for the Indian space economy has been released by the Indian Space Promotion and Authorisation Center, also known as InSpace. The organization is forecasting India's space economy to reach $44 billion by 2033, which is a massive surge from the current $8.4 billion. Now, India accounts for just 2% of the global space market in 2023, but InSpace says they see it jumping to 8% of the worldwide market share in the next decade. The country has attracted an increase in private investment following its successful soft landing on the lunar surface in August. InSpace's comprehensive strategy aims to shape India's space economy and solidify its standing on the global stage. Relativity Space has signed a multi-year, multi-launch services agreement with Intelsat operator of the largest integrated space and terrestrial network in the world. Under the agreement, Relativity will launch Intelsat satellites on Terran R as early as 2026. The cost of the launch agreement was not mentioned in the announcement, but Relativity says it has a total of 9 signed customers for Terran R, including multiple launches and totaling more than $1.8 billion in backlog. The European Space Agency has awarded Skyrora, Viasat, and CGI a contract under the Commercial Space Transportation Services Program to demonstrate a space-based launch vehicle telemetry relay system. The system, known as InRange, aims to benefit launch vehicle providers across the industry globally. Skyrora says InRange will enable the company to achieve continuous transmission of telemetry data during flight, from launch to payload deployment. InRange will connect to Viasat's global ELERA L-band satellite communication network. The initial stage of the project will include Viasat conducting ground testing of the InRange solution with Skyrora's launch vehicle system. And CGI will undertake a market study and analysis of ground stations to determine the commercial potential of the solution within the wider launch service provider market. Some news from Africa now, and the Rwanda Space Agency and Star.Vision Aerospace Limited have announced the successful completion of the algorithm rideshare program aboard China's first artificial intelligence satellite, WJ-1A. The vehicle was launched in August as part of China's Wonder Journey constellation, a next-generation aerospace enterprise that combines artificial intelligence and aerospace technology. A team of 6 students from the Rwandan universities collaborated with mentors from the country's space agency to work on the mission. The algorithms on the satellite enable the vehicle to independently process images, eliminating the need for data downloads and facilitating real-time land usage assessment. Australian companies Axiom Precision Manufacturing and the New Press Group have been selected as global supply chain partners by Lockheed Martin for the Orion spacecraft program. The companies have previously partnered with Lockheed on the F-35 program, and the latest contracts were awarded under Lockheed Martin's Global Supply Chain Program Agreement with the Commonwealth of Australia. The U.S. National Reconnaissance Office, or NRO, says it plans to quadruple the size of its satellite fleet over the next decade. The intelligence agency says the expansion will allow it to deliver, quote, 10 times as many signals and images as it is today. Space Force Major General Christopher Povak told the Mitchell Institute that, quote, NRO is already building the largest and most capable, diverse, and resilient overhead constellation in our history. We're also putting new capabilities on orbit, on ground, and everywhere in between. Povak went further to explain that the planned satellites will be of diverse size, stationed across diverse orbits. The NRO's future architecture will include the continued use of commercial satellites to obtain unclassified, shareable data. Evolution Space has announced plans to establish production and testing operations for solid rocket motors at NASA's Stennis Space Center in Mississippi. Evolution will be given access to previously vacant Stennis facilities to mix, cast, and store propellants. They also plan to use the E3 test complex to conduct solid rocket motor hot fires on site for the first time. Evolution Space plans to work with NASA personnel to test the motors, and this will be the first time that production and testing of solid rocket motors will be held at Stennis. Evolution's production facility is expected to be operational by spring 2024. That concludes our briefing for today. We've added links to further reading on all the stories we've featured in our show notes. We've included a few extra stories for you as well. One from the NRO, which has announced that it's working with the Space Force to develop next-generation moving target tracking capabilities in space. There's another on Astrospace's possible asset sales, and a third story on space security. They're all at space.n2k.com. Hey T-Minus crew, if you find this podcast useful, please do us a favor and share a 5-star rating and a short review in your favorite podcast app. That will help other space professionals just like you to find the show and join the T-Minus crew. Thank you so much. We really appreciate it. Now, today is International Day of the Girl, and we wanted to highlight a female role model in the aerospace industry who is pushing boundaries and agendas. Dr. Norilmi Amilia Ismail is a university lecturer, an entrepreneur focusing on building satellites, and a UN mentor for the Space for Women program. She is also the president of the Malaysian Space Initiative, which is a non-governmental and nonprofit organization that aims to promote collaboration between the Malaysian government, industry, and academia to advance the country's space industry. She's very busy, as you might imagine. I started off by asking her opinion on the Malaysia Space Exploration Action Plan for 2030.
When we talk about space in Malaysia, it should be really connect to the Malaysian. So we have experienced some sort, I can't really say it's failure, but in 2009, we launched our own satellite, Razak. It was the first satellite that SpaceX, the commercial satellite that SpaceX launched, actually.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah,
That's cool.
Yeah, you should read a book on the Elon Musk. Elon Musk is actually talking about this. Razak, Malaysia is the first commercial customer for them. And this Razak site is not very long in the orbit. And when it's just like for nearly a year on the operations. And when it's no longer operate, Malaysians feel that this is kind of failure. And we're not supposed to put lots of money to the space. So we have like very silent moment for the industry around from 2009 to 2012. So nobody dared to do something extravaganza for the space because we know that it's very sensitive to the Malaysians. But then when we have this kind of, we call that new space, when the private sector entering this industry, then we see that it attract back people because when people say that, oh, you use this tax money, but we can just back up ourselves and say that, oh no, this is private. The sources are coming from the private funding. So it's not really touching on the tax money from the Malaysian. So the perspective actually changes. But then when they draft on the Malaysia space exploration, it based on the Malaysia space policy. Actually, in 2017, they already draft this policy. So this policy is more on looking what kind of the exploration for Malaysia need to go for this space. It's not like you go to the moon. It's not like you go for the asteroid mining, something like that. But it's more on the economical value. So they look on the remote sensing satellite. This is where actually we think that this will create more economical value, but also more on the scientific value. So we can learn from all the scientific exploration from this satellite development. And from this Malaysia space policy in 2017, then they have this Malaysia space exploration when they have more than satellite. So now they have in the line, they're going to study about the launcher or maybe the facilities for the launcher, having a spaceport, and also having a startup for the incubator for the space, specifically for space, and more small satellite, focusing on more development of small satellite. And this is based on two things. The first one, on the contribution to the economy itself, which they think that it should be contribute around 0.3. This is the objective or the aim for this space industry, 0.3 of the Malaysian GDP. It's around 3.2 billion in ringgit Malaysia, around 1 billion for the USD. And
thank you.
Sorry. and also it's supposed to contribute around 5,000 job opportunities in Malaysia. So this is something that 5,000 is not a small number for us, for the space industry, because currently I can just count with my finger how many engineers actually focusing on the spacecraft design or involved in development of satellite or anything related to the space. And based on these two, they see that, if we want the space industry here, meaning that it needs to contribute to economy and also not hurting the pocket of the government.
Of course, yes, showing that value. Yep, absolutely.
That's the reason why I think all the policy are looking how to develop the company, the startup, and also how to bring more investment to Malaysia, specifically on the space related company that come to Malaysia, how to ease them to be in Malaysia. So all the policy is direct to this kind of more on development of Malaysia industry toward 2030. So at least now we have something to look for and also to refer or the guideline for us and also the guideline for the government itself. This year, I think they're going to announce on the budget for Malaysian to spend next year. So we heard that aerospace industry is one of the mainstream that or main field that they're going to focus in order to develop more economy related activities so that they can achieve on the Malaysia Space Exploration 2030 objective. So industry is the main player for this now. But we can't avoid that to have the industry, meaning that we also need a very good academic institutions doing all the research, the talent. And in Malaysia, for your information, we have only 3 universities having a program that can fit to the talent of the spacecraft or anything related to the space. So now we think that we need more. We need to have more university that offer this program and also maybe other institution, private institution that can help us together to fit the talent for this industry.
And I would imagine that wouldn't be just, and I'm not to minimize this, not just satellite manufacturing, as important as that is, but also how to use the data that the satellites provide and maybe how to propagate that into use in different applications.
Yeah, but for your information, to start off, to kick off this kind of activities, they actually have like a focus area on the satellite development. This is the kick-off of this Malaysia space exploration. But at the same time, of course, if you have the satellite development, all the data you have, then other industry also need to be there. So data analytics is one of them.
Absolutely. And I want to go back to something that you mentioned because it's something that I was reading about a few months ago that I really wanted to talk to you about a little bit was discussions about developing a space launch facility in Malaysia. Given its physical location on the globe, very well positioned to benefit from a space launch facility. And I imagine the satellite industry in Malaysia would also really appreciate having a domestic launch site. Thoughts on that?
I heard about this actually a few years ago when I start talking to a few industry. And actually this being pushed by industry too. I can't really say this originally idea from the government because the demand is there. Really, really happy to have this kind of a launcher in Malaysia. It's easy for me to launch more satellites, right? Because I'm making a satellite. Then when we heard about this, we know some of reaction of Malaysia still have the very conventional reaction where we're not supposed to put money on space and others. But I think the government doing a very good promotion for this. And even they now having influencer to talk about this, that this is not really from the taxpayer. This is actually the government-private partnership. Then this is actually the money coming from the private itself. So this is exciting because we know that we need a cooperation between private and government in terms of policy, and also academia to study the right place to have this kind of launcher facilities. Even though we know that Malaysia is in the equator, it's easy, but still we are very near to our neighbors. So geopolitical things need to be solved by the government. The facility will be provided by industry, but the study also need to be included on the academia. So we need to make sure this happen by include all these entities to work together. So this is the most, I think, important roles that will be played by our Ministry of Science and Technology to make sure that this will happen. There are all these 3 entities working together to come up with the best proposal for the launcher facility. I think the most important now for Malaysia is to work together with others too, because we still need to learn from other countries how we can develop our own space industry. So we're still open for the collaboration. So I think we are now in the map of the space industry. So look at us and try to work together with us so that it helps us in Malaysia.
We'll be right back. Welcome back. And I do love any excuse to talk about the old space shuttle program, and especially about the ongoing work for Endeavour's home at the Samuel Ocean Air and Space Center at the California Science Center in Los Angeles. If somehow you have never seen the photos of Endeavour making its way to and through the streets of LA in 2012, they are really incredible. Same thing for the bright orange external tank in 2016. Both the Endeavour orbiter and the tank don't quite easily fit along standard roads, so there were lots of road closures and the like to get them to their new home. Well, yesterday and today, more components of the full Endeavour assembly made the 160-mile trek to the City of Angels from the Mojave Desert. That would be the twin solid rocket motors. They are very big, yes, but thankfully these narrow white components, while as long as a 757 plane and wider than one car lane of traffic, didn't require shutting down tons of roads and could easily fit under freeway bridges as they reached their new destination. So yes, while there were some road closures, it was nowhere near the scale of the other shuttle components. In their journey from the Mojave Air and Spaceport to Cal Science, the twin rocket motors traveled at a comparatively modest speed of 45 miles an hour, which is a snail's pace compared to the multi-thousand miles per hour speed the shuttle used to reach back when, it was actually in use. The rocket motors are some of the last components to be assembled and later installed on the Endeavour before the entire Endeavour exhibit at Cal Science shuts down at the end of this year for a good few years. In that time, Endeavour will be fully assembled once again in a vertical orientation, and its new home will be built up around it. I cannot wait to see that. That's it for T-Minus for October 11th, 2023. For additional resources from today's report, check out our show notes at space.n2k.com. We'd love to know what you think of our podcast. You can email us at space@n2k.com or submit the survey in our show notes. Your feedback ensures that we deliver the information that keeps you a step ahead in the rapidly changing space industry. N2K Strategic Workforce Intelligence optimizes the value of your biggest investment, your people. We make you smarter about your team while making your team smarter. This episode was produced by Alice Carruth, mixing by Elliot Peltzman and Trey Hester, with original music and sound design by Elliot Peltzman. Our executive producer is Brandon Karpf. Our chief intelligence officer is Eric Tillman. And I'm Maria Varmazes. Thanks for listening. We'll see you tomorrow.